Welcome to the Geographic Information Systems Certificate Information session. My name is Danelle Pankratz, and I serve as the program manager for this certificate program. And so today we'll be talking about just meeting the team, which is Letty and myself, and that will be on an upcoming slide. We'll share some program highlights. We'll have a brief instructor showcase along with some time for Q&A, and we'll also provide you with registration and contact information. So this is our small team. Again, I'm Danelle Pankratz. I serve as the senior program manager, and Letty Laura is helping me today. Also goes by Leticia. She's our program support coordinator. We're happy to serve you. Okay, so the GIS program, just some brief highlights about the program. Been going for nearly 20 years strong. We have only 4 required courses, and there's no application required for the program. The duration of the program is 8 to 9 months in order to complete it, and we start the program with the Introduction to GIS course every fall and spring. So I'm honored to introduce our lead instructor for this program, Karen Underhill. She's a GIS specialist and specializes in analysis and manager for various government and private organizations, and she has over 30 years of experience. Karen.
Hello. Welcome to the info session for the GIS certificate program. As Danielle mentioned, I am the lead instructor for the program, and I have worked in the field for 30 years plus. And I worked at Cal State Fullerton for around 13 years in the program. I started in class in the classroom for a few years, and then we developed I helped develop the online program, which has been working out really well for me and our instructors as well as our students, because we can expand from a local classroom to whoever wants to take the course, and it's worked out really well. Um, let's talk about the program a little bit. So. As mentioned before, there are 4 courses in the program. No real prerequisites except that you should have some knowledge of Windows operating systems, either Windows 11 or Windows 10 are acceptable, and be somewhat computer savvy. And what I mean by that is you can install programs, you can remove programs, you can troubleshoot programs if you get a glitch kind of thing. But no expert, but you need to have some capability there, because we use a software that's pretty heavy user operation, and it can wear on your computer, and so if you don't have the right operating systems, it could be a problem. So let's go on to the classes. So there's 4 classes. 2 of them are 6 weeks long, and 2 of them are 8 weeks long. So the introduction class is just to get you going with the software. There's a large learning curve with the software. It takes a while to learn, and that's why we offer the introduction class. We even have a prep week prior to the introduction class to help you install and that sort of thing. If you don't attend the prep week, it's still okay. The first week of the course, we're still doing that sort of thing, although we will start right off the bat with assignments, exercises, and that sort of thing. So the intro class is just learning the software and learning some of the tools. So you'll be making maps, and you'll be using some of the tools, some of the basic tools, just to get you going during that 6 weeks. The classes are designed to go Monday through Sunday. So Monday we open up a new module or a week, and then by Sunday your assignments and exercises will be due. And we'll go into that a little bit more later. The next class is the GIS Data and Formats class. That's an 8-week course, and with GIS, you have to have appropriate data to do analysis with and create maps. So we spend a lot of time in that, because you'll learn to create your own data, obtain data from various sources, convert data that you receive from other sources to appropriate formats. that you can work with in GIS. So that happens all the time. It's a big deal to understand the data in order to use it and use it for analysis and create your maps. So we spend a lot of time with that, although we still are doing assignments, exercises. You end up creating maps almost every week, but we're working with different types of data and formats. And the next class is the kind of the meat of the program. It's the GIS analysis and map design, where the first two courses you've learned the basics, you've learned how to work with some of the data, and now you're going to do some GIS analysis. So you're going to take the data and perform different types of analysis. It could be, um, it could be crime analysis, like how many crimes in a certain area occurred over a certain period of time, and all that could be spatially related and put onto a map. Or it could be something more like real estate, cost of housing in certain areas and that sort of thing. So you use the data and you create maps. And then we spend, like I said, 8 weeks on that, and we do use a lot of different new tools that you didn't get introduced to in the intro class, and a lot of them more advanced, like spatial analyst and network analyst and those sort of things. And you learn a tiny bit of back end programming, Python, but not a lot. We spend like a 1 week talking about that. But that's something you can go into if you have a bigger interest, and it's not required. And then the last course is a 6-week course, and it's the GIS project. It's the capstone of this program. So you have to take the first 3 classes in order, and you have to take them all before you start the GIS project. And the project is pretty neat because the way we work it is you do a project of your choosing. We don't say, hey, work on this and this is going to be your project. I say, hey, or our instructors say, what's the project that you are going to create? And a lot of students choose depending on their background, based on like if you work for a company or an organization that uses GIS, but you're getting a certificate because you want to learn more about GIS and you want to be able to do more GIS at your work, you might go ahead and do a GIS project related to your actual work that you work. And we have a lot of that. But we also have a lot of people that are new to GIS and have never used GIS before. And then they are just, work on projects based on their area of interest. If you have an interest in crime analysis, if you have an interest in environmental, if you have an interest in medical issues across the United States, there's all kinds of things you can choose. And mainly GIS is you ask a question, a spatial question, and GIS can provide those answers. And it's a good at the end of the project, you'll have something to showcase your work. And a lot of our students have used their projects in interviews where they can print out the slides or, show them a slideshow of what your project was to see how advanced you are in GIS. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, and we'll talk about the students and our graduates. So new students, obviously, we have all ages. We have people at the beginning of their careers and people at the middle of their careers and people that are just wanting to retire from their other career and go into GIS. So we have all ages. We also have diverse backgrounds. We have people that never touched GIS in their life, and we have people that have a little bit of a GIS background. Or there's people that also had worked in GIS that it's been years and they need to brush up, so they want to take the certificate program to bring everything up to speed. We do expect to have, like I mentioned before, be computer savvy, have some computer skills, because you will be installing software and using that software quite heavily. And I mentioned a minute ago the pace of the course, where a new course is introduced, a new subject is introduced each week. And each week, like on a Monday, you have all week, excuse me, to do your assignments and exercises. So if you're working full time or if you're busy doing other things, You can pick days that you want to work on your GIS work, as long as you meet the due date. So you have an entire week to turn everything in, and then I will grade it, or our instructors will grade it, and move on to the next week in the next subject matter. So you will be required to work quite independently. Since it's 100% online, there's no live classroom at all. So you can work at your own pace, as long as you meet the weekly requirements. But I say independently because you can still communicate with us. So, most students, if they get stuck on something, they will email their instructor, or they can use the student forum, which is really cool. We have a lot of students that talk to each other. So the first intro class, you'll be introducing yourself to each other, and then you'll start working with the forums every week. Say you have a question where I got stuck on step number 5, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong, and it's just something simple. So you can ask that in the forum, and probably one of your classmates will say, "Oh yeah, I got stuck on that too. This is what I did." And we have a lot of that back and forth with you helping each other, and it works out really well. And we put the ability to communicate visually, because the end product will most likely be a map that you're going to either put on a wall, put on a web page, add to a report. And by using the visual of a map, you need to be able to display everything that you want to say in one or several maps. And so you need to be able to communicate that way. And then, of course, our students are looking to enhance their resume, and also often because they're looking for maybe a career enhancement or a change in their career. All right, so let's move on to what happens when you graduate. There's a variety of fields that you could go into. Like I said, a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there's usually several that already work in a field and they just want to enhance their skills. And then there's some that don't have any experience and they just want to work in GIS somewhere. So like I was saying, there's a variety of fields, even medical. You can name a field, and pretty much if you can spatially relate something in that field, you can work in that field. And and then the job titles will change. So say you work in planning, say you're an actual urban planner, but you want to learn GIS. So your job title may not change. You may advance to more senior levels of planning because you have a GIS background. But then you can also get jobs as directly as a GIS working person for different companies, consultants, government agencies, utilities, wherever your interests are. So some of the job titles here, I've listed a few. There's many. Usually the entry level, like right after you get your certificate and it's your first job in GIS, you might see something more of a GIS technician or a GIS specialist type of position. A few years down the road, you may get a more advanced position such as a GIS analyst. If you're into computer programming a little bit, you can become a GIS developer. There's a lot of that work going on in GIS. It's very popular. If you have to take the data and formats course and you really love data and data formats, you might become a database administrator. And then you can also, after years of experience, become a GIS manager. And the other thing I wanted to add is I have a GISP, and that means GIS professional. And what that is after 4 or 5 years, there's an organization that offers it. And it's an actual certificate that you can get and also add that to your resume. But again, you have to have 4 or 5 years experience in the field, and then you take an exam. So once you take the exam, it's pretty good to get it. Once you get it, some agencies ask for GISPs. It's not all the time, but more advanced jobs may ask for that particular GISP. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. And here I just wanted to emphasize what software we use, just so if you want to look it up or if you're familiar with it. ESRI is a company that makes probably 90% of the GIS software used in organizations, government, and private. And we use the most recent software that they have, which is ArcGIS Pro. Some of you that have a GIS background, you may be familiar with GIS Map or ArcMap. But Esri is starting to phase that out. We used to teach both. We used to teach ArcMap and ArcPro. Then we just kind of phased ArcMap out along with Esri and just stuck with ArcGIS Pro. And they update that every year, so there's always a new version. So we always try to use the newest version that comes out when it's released. Usually every year there's something. And so my last point here is what we try to do in this program is not just to get you a certificate, say, hey, I got a GIS certificate, now I can work in the field, but also learn, because we do, everything we do is hands-on. Every week you have an assignment, but it's all making a map, doing something with data, doing some kind of analysis on your own with using the software. So conceptual will be introduced like very briefly in a lecture, but the rest is all hands-on, do it yourself. And that's the best way to learn this type of work. So we want you to get the certificate, of course, but we also want you to, once you have that certificate, be able to get that job in GIS and say, yes, I know how to do this. I've done it before. So with that, I'll turn it back to Danielle and Letty to see if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Karen. It looks like there's one question in the chat, and that's from Lisa. Does the program include additional Esri software, i.e., field maps?
No, I'm familiar with field map, so that's a separate software. So those are, that field map is for people that actually use GIS in the field. So that would be separate, but you're still learning the same concept. You're not doing analysis and that sort of thing in the field, but you do have GIS maps, and you can put points and draw polygons and all these things out in the field with field map. I've used it before. I've worked in offices that use it, or field that usually the field crew uses it. So we use it in this program, but it's once you learn GIS, you can probably easily learn the field map.
Thank you, Karen. We have another question that just came in from Yasmin. She's asking, is Esri software compatible with Mac computers?
That's a really good question, because it is and it isn't. Esri software is built for Windows. It's built for Windows 10 or Windows 11, but there have been students that have a Mac, and they end up building a virtual environment with Windows, and then they can install it. So it won't directly install on a Mac, but there is a workaround. But if you can borrow or have a Windows computer, that's probably the most easiest way to get through it.
Thank you, Karen. It looks like that's all of the questions that we have for now. This is an opportunity for you to ask any questions that you may have, so please feel welcome to enter them into the chat. And I can field those over to Karen. And if not, that's okay. Maybe we might answer some of your questions in the next couple of slides. Oh, here we go. We have one from Gerard. Maria is asking, how do we go about registering? So Maria, we will cover that. But before we go to that, Gerard is asking, can you illustrate an actual project or task a tech would perform in an average workday?
Um, yes and no, because there's so many variety of jobs that a tech could do. But what you would normally be, let's say you're a GIS technician and you're working for an organization, and the organization has managers, like project managers that are working on different projects. And what will happen with GIS, there's some regular tasks that you will do. You might create, update maps, or do analysis on a weekly basis that's required. But then you'll also get these requests, and usually it comes from an upper level manager or someone on a project, and they say, I want this. So I want to know, X, and in the area of Y. So they want to know something about that area based on some criteria, and that's all they tell you. So it's that's why we say you have to be analytical a little bit and be communicate well, because you at that point the technician would say, okay, what do you mean by that? Because a lot of times the manager will say, I want this, and they don't really know 100% what they want. They have a vision in the back of their mind, so they leave it up to the technician or the specialist or the analyst to figure it out and present them with something. So asking questions up front from the manager, what in particular do you want? They will never tell you how to do it because they don't know how to do it. They're not GIS people. But you should know how to do it and then try to figure out a way to do it and, present it to whoever asks you about it, like maybe even in steps. If it's a big project, say, is this what you were thinking? A lot of times they'll say yes, or they'll say, oh wow, I didn't think about it, but that's even better, kind of thing. So it's hard to say. There's a lot of general tasks that you will do. You gotta make your weekly maps or your monthly maps, but there's a lot of request type analysis and maps that you will do.
Thank you, Karen. We have another question. It's just an initial P that says, do you need to purchase the GIS software? And if we do, can we have permanent access or ownership of the software, or is it temporary like a subscription?
Yes, the ArcGIS Pro that we asked you to purchase is a subscription. It's a year subscription, so it'll get you through the program. You can probably renew it if you wanted to. It's not super expensive. It's for students, so it's not super expensive. I think it's $100 for a whole year, and you get all the extensions that are very expensive. So if you worked for a company and tried to buy it, you'd probably spend $25,000 for everything you get for your $100 for your student use. So it is a year. I think you can renew it, but I'm not 100% if you're not, using it for your actual work. If you're using it for your actual work, they should be providing you with the ArcGIS Pro. Um, Hopefully that answers your question.
That's great. Thank you, Karen. So I think we can move on to the next slide because we are receiving some questions about enrollment. So let's cover that. So this is how you would register. We have a website called Extension, and this is the professional development program. So you can see the link provided down below, extension.fullerton.edu, and then /professional development /certificates /GIS, and I'll put that in the chat right now so that everyone has it available. And so it's just simply going to the Register Now button. You can certainly add both the Introduction to GIS and the GIS data and formats. Those are courses 1 and 2. If you wish to add both to cart, you're welcome to do that, or you can register for one class at a time. And I know that someone in the chat had a question about the overlapping dates. And so for this first Introduction to GIS class, we will have, as Karen mentioned, a prep week. And that's what you're seeing. That's why you're seeing two separate schedule lines. So we'll have a prep week from August 26th to September 1st, just to ensure that everyone is able to get into the software and get used to the software before the actual class does start on September 2nd. Did anyone have any other questions about how to register or anything like that? Please feel welcome to enter it into the chat and I'll be happy to answer those questions. As I said, the first day of class is August 26th, and the deadline to register for that class is August 20th. That's a Tuesday. Any other questions about registering? Yes, so there are different prices for the courses depending on the number of hours or the number of weeks, as Karen said, in the program. The first class does cost $725, and then you can see the website for the subsequent courses. The overall cost for the program is currently $3,370, and it does take between 8 to 9 months to finish. So those payments can certainly be, yes, I can repeat the deadlines for registration. So the deadline to register for the first class, which is the Introduction to GIS that's featured on the screen, is Tuesday, August 20th. That's the deadline to register. And we'll provide you with information about the software after you register so that you can purchase that. We have a question coming in from Maria Rivera. Are the Monday classes asynchronous, or do we all have to meet at a specific time on Mondays? Great question, Maria. So this program, the whole of the program is asynchronous. It's fully online, so it will be self-paced. Modules will be released weekly with deadlines for the assignments, and you will need to complete those assignments by the given deadlines. Karen may be available for what we refer to as office hours. If she does that, she will issue an announcement in the Canvas portal and basically just say to everyone, hey, we'll have office hours on this day. If you're able to attend, it will be optional to attend those office hours, but they will be very helpful and it will be an opportunity for students to ask questions. Is the cost the same for out-of-state students? Yes, Laura, the cost is the same for out-of-state students. Will we be watching video lectures? There will be some video lectures, but also Karen will be available for some office hours as well. And she is available via email as well if you had any questions. Connor is asking, do we pay upfront for the courses or can we pay by the end of the class? So you will have to, when you register, pay in full for what you're registering for. However, with that said, you can register for just one course at a time and pay for that one course. And then as that course is coming to an end, you can then register for the next course. Someone is asking, is there possible financial assistance? Very good question. So we, the traditional financial aid called FAFSA, is not applicable to certificate programs. So that is not available to non-credit certificate programs. However, you are more than welcome to utilize student loans, personal loans, things of that nature. Many times also, employers do reimburse for professional development courses. So you may want to check in with your employers to see if they do any type of reimbursement benefit. Denise is asking, can the units earned for the certificate count towards a degree? Great question, Denise. Unfortunately, no, they do not count towards a degree because these are non-credit CEUs. CEU stands for Continuing Education Unit. So those cannot be applicable directly to an academic credit degree. And then someone else is asking, will the grades for these courses be on a transcript? Yes, you will have a Cal State Fullerton transcript, and the grades for these courses will absolutely be listed on a transcript. You'll also receive unofficial letter grades. So when I say unofficial letter grades, let me back up. On the transcript, your grade will only be listed as credit or no credit, but you will also be issued an unofficial letter grade. So Karen will assign you a grade of A, B, C, D, F, whatever you've earned in the class, and you will receive that in addition. Some people need those in order to be reimbursed by their employers. Karen is asking, is there an accelerated program? No, at this time, we do not have an accelerated program in GIS. This is the only GIS program that we do offer. But perhaps, Karen, do you have any other information about potential accelerated programs in this area?
No, not really. I wouldn't try to move too fast through GIS, all the GIS applications. It sounds interesting and you'd like to get it over with fast, but there's so much to it that we start classes sometimes just the next week once the one class is finished. So rather than trying to overlap these classes, we do them one after the other. Sometimes there's a break in between, and most times there's not.
Thank you, Karen. Um, Karen in the chat, Karen G, is also asking, do any classes satisfy master's program? And again, no, unfortunately, these courses that we're offering are CEU based, continuing education units that are not applicable towards a degree program, whether it be a bachelor's or a master's program. So unfortunately, no, they would not be applicable towards that. And we can go ahead and move to the next slide if there are no other questions. So I do want to provide you with our contact information so that if you do think about any questions after this session has ended, you can reach out to either myself, Danelle Pancratz at dpancratz@fullerton.edu, or you're welcome to reach out to Laura at llara@fullerton.edu, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. If there were any, content specific or industry specific questions that you have that we're not able to answer, we will escalate those questions to Karen and make sure that you get an answer back. And we have one more question that came in right at the last minute from Gerard. He's saying, I thought I heard Karen mention Python. Is that or any programming language necessary for the course or just useful?
Is not necessary. It's just one of those um, subject matters that are getting really popular. So we spend 1 week just talking about Python, and you take a real simple online course offered by ISRI. It's called Python for Beginners or something, just to get you know your foot in the Python world, and that way you can determine if that's something for you or something you don't want. You don't have to use Python at all.
All right, let's move on to the last slide. We're bringing it home. We thank you all so much tonight for attending our session. We hope that you walked away with some really helpful information. And if you find that you need any other information, please do feel welcome to reach out to us. We look forward to welcoming you to the Titan family this fall or in the spring, and we hope you have a great night.